Join us on Patreon and become part of our journey to uncover history's untold stories. Your support helps us create in-depth content, bring hidden narratives to life, and keep history alive for everyone.
In the highlands of ancient Ethiopia, amid the rugged escarpments and mist-veiled plateaus, a transformation was unfolding that would reverberate across centuries and continents. The rise of the Aksumite Empire during late antiquity marked one of the most significant yet often overlooked episodes in world history. With its capital in the city of Aksum, this African kingdom stood as a major hub of trade, diplomacy, and culture. It was in this extraordinary context, around the early 4th century CE, that King Ezana emerged as a monumental figure in both African and Christian history. Often hailed as the first Christian emperor of Ethiopia, Ezana's conversion to Christianity marked a turning point for the region. But what remains equally captivating and lesser explored is his deliberate decision to reject the spiritual and political endorsement of Rome. Why would a newly Christian monarch, ruling an empire nestled on the periphery of the known world, refuse the blessing of the most dominant Christian authority of the time? To answer this question, one must delve deep into the dynamics of early Christianity, imperial politics, and the proud sovereign identity of Ethiopia itself. Ezana's reign, circa 320s to 360 CE, occurred at a time when the Christian world was undergoing immense transformation. Just a few decades earlier, Constantine the Great had legalized Christianity in the Roman Empire through the Edict of Milan in 313 CE. The subsequent Council of Nicaea in 325 CE would further solidify Christian orthodoxy, giving Rome increasing ecclesiastical authority. Rome's spiritual reach began to extend into regions far beyond its political borders. But in the case of Ethiopia, the embrace of Christianity came from a different source, not through Rome, but through the teachings of Frumentius, a Syrian Christian who had become an influential figure in the Aksumite court. According to the ecclesiastical historian Rufinus of Aquileia, and later reinforced by Socrates Scholasticus, Frumentius and his brother Edesius were shipwrecked and taken to the Aksumite kingdom as young men. Frumentius, demonstrating wisdom and diplomacy, earned the trust of the royal household and was eventually entrusted with the education of the young Ezana. During this time, he planted the seeds of Christianity in Aksum. When Ezana ascended the throne, he did so with a burgeoning Christian faith deeply influenced by Frumentius, who would later be ordained as Bishop of Aksum by Athanasius, the Patriarch of Alexandria, rather than by the Roman Church. This subtle yet powerful detail is crucial. By receiving Christianity through Alexandria and not Rome, Ezana was aligning Aksum with the theological and ecclesiastical authority of the Alexandrian See. At the time, Alexandria was one of the most influential centers of Christian thought, second only to Rome and Constantinople. However, unlike the Latinized, imperially entwined Church of Rome, the Alexandrian tradition had developed a unique Coptic character, African, Semitic, and steeped in monastic mysticism. For Ezana and the Aksumite elite, this brand of Christianity resonated more intimately with their cultural and regional realities. Furthermore, Aksum's growing power as a trading empire meant it had little incentive to subordinate itself to Rome. The empire commanded crucial Red Sea trade routes, linking the Mediterranean to the Indian Ocean. It maintained diplomatic relations with Byzantium, Persia, and even India. Ezana minted coins bearing the Christian cross, one of the earliest uses of Christian iconography on currency, demonstrating his intent to independently assert his Christian faith on the global stage. Seeking Rome's blessing or ecclesiastical endorsement would have implied a degree of subservience that contradicted Aksum's sovereign stature. Another factor in Ezana's calculated autonomy was the geopolitical landscape of the time. The Roman Empire, even in its Christianized form, was still perceived as an imperial power with a long history of colonization and hegemony. By the 4th century, Africa had already experienced Roman military campaigns and annexations, particularly in North Africa. Ethiopia, never having been colonized by Rome, maintained a fierce pride in its independence. To accept Roman ecclesiastical oversight might have been perceived as a gateway to political encroachment. In addition, theological disputes between different Christian centers were already intensifying. The Arian controversy, which questioned the divinity of Christ, had splintered early Christianity. While Rome and Constantinople were embroiled in doctrinal battles, Alexandria under Athanasius championed the Nicene Creed with steadfast orthodoxy. By aligning with Alexandria, Ezana was both affirming doctrinal legitimacy and distancing himself from the politicized theology of Rome. Ezana's refusal to seek Rome's blessing thus reflected a conscious assertion of Ethiopian sovereignty, both spiritual and temporal. It was a bold declaration that Christianity could thrive outside the bounds of Roman authority, adapted to local cultures and independent traditions. His decision laid the groundwork for the Ethiopian Orthodox Tewahedo Church, one of the oldest Christian traditions in the world, which remains distinct from both Roman Catholicism and Eastern Orthodoxy to this day. In retrospect, Ezana's stance was not just a matter of ecclesiastical preference, but a foundational act of identity formation. It announced to the world that Ethiopia would chart its own Christian path, rooted in African soil, enriched by Semitic traditions, and safeguarded by its imperial dignity. The echoes of this decision resonate even now in the spiritual, cultural, and political uniqueness of Ethiopia, a land whose Christian roots are both ancient and uniquely its own.